Hi, this is Dave, Dave's Vintage Baseball Cards. Who says lightning can't strike twice? You've probably already seen my video on the Oregon find, huge find, 1,400 cards. That was in 2004. In 2006, I had an almost identical story, much smaller scale, but still over 200 cards, and that was what I called the Indianapolis find. Anyway, here's the story about the Indy find.
So here's how the story unfolds. I get a call from a guy named Jimmy, and this is probably in about March or April of July. And my memory, it's not so clear on details as you're going to see in just a moment. Anyway, he proceeds to tell me about a fairly large collection of old judge cards that he says he has, a couple hundred. He doesn't make them sound like they're in particularly great condition or anything like that. And he's just kind of feeling around and whatnot, and it didn't really sound like anything too promising. And he said he'd get a list or get something or another, and he'd get back to me in a couple of days. And I kind of dismissed it after that and forgot about it. I don't remember if I was in my office or whether I was out on the road or what it was when I was talking to him, but I don't hear from him for a while, and so I just forget about it. And then about 3 months later, 4 months later, in the beginning of July, or the middle of July of 2006, I get another call from him. And this time, I remember exactly where I was. I was walking around Long's Drugs. I'm going up and down the aisles, and he starts talking to me about this old judge collection, and he said that he had over 200 cards, and he'd called me a few months before, and I had completely forgotten about it. And I said, well, I don't, maybe you called somebody else. I mean, I'm interested, but I don't think you talked to me about it. I remember something like that. And we went on again for another couple minutes, and he repeated something that he said, well, you said this. And it definitely was something that only I would have said. And so at that point, I realized when it started coming back to me, oh, yeah, okay, I did talk to this guy. And he tells me a little bit more about the cards, and he's asking me what would I pay and trying to get information without me having even seen anything. So I figure, okay, couple hundred cards, average condition, probably no big deal, no big names, nothing like that. I kind of figured a average price per card, and I threw a number out there at him. But I said, listen, why don't you get me a list of the names and and fax them over to me, and then we can talk about it later. So he gets a list of the names. There's over 200 players, and he faxes them over to me. And let me go ahead and get into the details of this collection a little bit more. It was eerily similar to the Oregon find. His wife, Cecilia, was in her mid-50s. Her mother was 93. They were moving her out of her home, into a convalescent home or something like that. And she still had her father's childhood collection, just like in the Oregon find. Uh, and they found these cards, and there's a couple hundred of them, and so here we go. So I get home later on that evening, and I get this list, and I'm sitting down, and I put on my glasses, and I'm going through the list, and I don't get too far into it, just down to the C's, and I literally, my chair comes out from under me, and I fall onto the floor. And there on the list is the name of Cusick, a card that I had previously sold for a small fortune to another collector. I collect myself, I get back up, and then I get to the D's, and I got to fall down again. I'm like, my God, I can't believe this. There's a Davin. And there were several other impossible names that were the same. So I'm thinking, geez, how could this guy have that many impossible cards in a small collection like this? Maybe he's doesn't have them, right? I'm starting to doubt this. So I send him a list of about 25 or 30 cards. I call him up. I give him this list. He says, yeah, I know I got some good ones in there. I said, yeah, okay, which good ones do you think you have? And he starts naming off some Hall of Famers. He's got McPhee, and he's got, a few other names. As you can see, these cards, as they're flashing down below, there's some gorgeous cards. I said, yeah, you got some good cards, but they're not the ones you think you have. And I request that he sends me photos, images of about 30 of the cards, and he sends them. And as you can see by these images, these cards are gorgeous. So the negotiation starts. I call him up. I'd thrown a number out at him when I was walking around the drugstore earlier that day, and I offered him 50 or 60% above that. With the first phone call, I said, these are in really nice shape. I'd like to buy them from you, and this is what I'd like to offer you. And he said, well, let me talk to my wife and blah, 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 and this and that. And we go back and forth, and I keep bumping the offer up by a couple thousand, 5,000, 10,000. And then the wife says, well, and I'm talking to her at this point. She goes, you know, my brother, which I had never even heard about a brother before, you know, he wants to take him up to St. Louis, there in Indianapolis, and go to the, or Chicago, and go to and show him to this auction house. They're interested in seeing him. And so I discussed the differences between, you know, getting some cash now versus sending them to an auction house. Who knows what they'll go for, and then they've got to wait for the next auction, and they got to wait to get paid, and as opposed to just closing the deal right away. Which, of course, I certainly didn't want these things going to an auction house because I figured I'd never get them if that happened. So we're going back and forth, and I finally said, well, listen, why don't you call your brother and ask him what is the number that he has in mind that he's thinking that he'll get from the auction house? How much does he want to sell the cards now? So they come back to me with a number. It's a little bit higher than what I'd been offering, but not too much, maybe about another 20%. So I asked her, I said, listen, if I come out there tomorrow, jump on a plane with cash, and I offered a couple $1,000s less than the number she had mentioned. I said, do we have a deal? She says, let me call you back. So she calls back about 10 minutes later, and she says, well, listen, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, but how about the day after tomorrow? I said, done. Of course, I'm sitting on needles and pins for this 48 hours, but go down to the airport the next day, and I tell them, rent a hotel room at the Sheraton there at the Indianapolis airport, and I'll be there at, I think it was like 2 or 3 o'clock. Meet me at the airport. So I get to the airport. I get into the, meet him at the hotel. We go up into the room, and these cards are in like a little cigar box. They're not even in plastic. And I brought a bunch of plastic sleeves with me, card savers. I brought the cash, right? And I go ahead and count the cards, look at them all. I go, okay, here's your cash. So these bundles of $10,000 all piled up. And Cecilia, she's so funny, she goes, do you mind? She goes, you know, I've never seen this much money in one place before. Do you mind if I just play with it for a little while? And I'm like, hey, well, I'm going to put the cards away. It's your money. You can do what you want with it. So she starts taking these $100 bills out of the out of the little wrappers that they're in, and she's rolling around on the bed throwing these things up in here. It's raining $100 bills. Here's a woman in her mid-50s rolling around in this kind of money. It was really kind of funny to see. But anyway, I went ahead and I got all the cards into the plastic holders. You can see the cards here. You're looking at them. They're absolutely gorgeous. And proceeded to, get back on the plane. I was home by midnight. Quick one-day little trip. And so that's the story of the Indianapolis find. And you can check out pictures of these cards. They were absolutely gorgeous. There's 4 or 5 of them in there that are virtually on everybody's want list. Unfortunately, there's not more of them to go around. I guess if there were, they wouldn't be on everybody's want list. But anyway, enjoy the Old Judge section. Take a look at these cards. We still have the pictures up on the site. You can see the website address. I've got it flashing up throughout this video. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to hear them. Feel free to call me anytime. And I am always interested in accumulating more of these kind of cards. So if you got some, give me a holler. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.